Hi YouTube. Okay, a vlog today regarding what happened yesterday. Israel bombs Palestine, and I'm noticing lots of vloggers that I subscribe to making videos on this subject, and I'm also noticing that there's lots of attacks out there and people commenting who might not understand the history behind the conflict of what's going on over there. So that's what my vlog today is going to be on, and it's just going to be an overview of the synopsis of what is taking place over there. Unfortunately for us Americans especially, our news, our mainstream media is no longer a free press. We are spoon-fed the information that the powers that be and the government want us to know and no more. So many of you might not know the history, and so I thought that's what I'd make my vlog on. So I'm going to read a little bit to you, and I'm going to try to make this quick as I can. Hopefully I won't have to make this into 2 videos. So right from the start, I just want to go to the start of the Israeli and the Palestinian conflict. Okay, I'm going to read you a little bit of the history from the website, and of course I'll leave the link over in the sidebar, called If Americans Knew. For centuries, there was no such conflict. In the 19th century, the land of Palestine was inhabited by a multicultural population, approximately 86% Muslim, 10% Christian, and 4% Jewish, all living in peace. In the late 1800s, a group in Europe decided to colonize the land. Known as Zionists, this group consisted of an extremist minority of the Jewish population. They wanted to create a Jewish homeland and considered locations in Africa and the Americas before settling on Palestine. At first, this immigration created no problems. However, as more and more Zionists immigrated to Palestine, many with the express wish of taking over the land for a Jewish state, the indigenous population became increasingly alarmed. Eventually, fighting broke out in escalating waves of violence. Hitler's rise to power and Nazi atrocities combined with Zionist activities to sabotage efforts to place Jewish refugees in Western countries led to increased Jewish immigration to Palestine, and conflict grew. Finally, in 1947, the United Nations decided to intervene. However, rather than adhering to the democratic principle espoused decades earlier by Woodrow Wilson of self-determination of peoples, in which the people themselves create their own state and system of government, the UN chose to revert to the medieval strategy whereby an outside power divides up the people's land. Under considerable Zionist pressure, the UN recommended giving away 55% of Palestine to a Jewish state, despite the fact that the group represented only about 30% of the total population and owned under 7% of the land. While it was widely and correctly reported that the resulting war eventually included 5 Arab armies, less well known is the fact that throughout this war, Zionist forces outnumbered all Arab and Palestinian combatants combined, often by a factor of 2 to 3. Also, contrary to popular belief, Arab armies did not invade Israel. Virtually all battles were fought on land that was to have been the Palestinian state. Finally, it is significant to note that Arab armies entered the conflict only after Zionist forces had committed 16 massacres, including the grisly massacre of over 100 men, women, and children at Deir Yassin. By the end of the war, Israel had conquered 78% of Palestine, 750,000 Palestinians have been made refugees, over 500 towns and villages have been destroyed, and a new map was drawn up in which every city, every river, every hillock received a new Hebrew name, as all vestiges of the Palestinian culture were to be erased. For many decades, Israel denied the existence of the population, former Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir once saying, "There's no such thing as Palestine, as a Palestinian." In 1967, Israel conquered still more land. Following a 6-day war in which Israeli forces launched a highly successful surprise attack on Egypt, Israel occupied an additional 22% of Palestine and had eluded it in 1948, the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Since according to international law, it is inadmissible to acquire territory by war, these are occupied territories and do not belong to Israel. It has also occupied parts of Egypt since returned and Syria, which remain under occupation. Also during the 6-day war, Israel attacked a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Liberty, killing and injuring over 200 American servicemen. President Lyndon Johnson recalled rescue flights, saying that he did not want to embrace an ally. The U.S. involvement. Largely due to one-sided special interest lobbying, U.S. taxpayers give Israel an average of $7 million a day, and since its creation has given more U.S. funds to Israel than to any other nation. As Americans learn about how Israel is using their tax dollars, many are calling for an end to the expenditure.